Israel, Iran, and as a Sunni Muslim, I'm not particularly pro-Iran because of the history of oppression of Sunnis by Shias, which has been brutal to say the least. So what is your stance on, supporting Iran and defeating Israel, who I believe is a greater evil? And I think that if Iran can be a bully like Israel, that's a much bigger threat to us and to other Muslims.
I think you said it in a good way. I think my stance and your stance are probably identical in the sense that we might not agree with Iran or the regime, and we might actually even say that they've committed genocides in Syria and they've done lots of horrible things. Actually, they probably contributed to apostasy in their own country at a rate that's probably never precedented in Islamic history. And there have been studies done in Iran, by the way, that show how many people no longer associate with Islam. That leadership needs to take stock of its actions and see what we're doing that are making these people hate us like this, like our populace. If they don't do that, then I think then there's no introspection from their side, yeah? But at the same time, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize that if it's a matter of, is it Iran or Israel, there's no question who we support in that. If someone says, I support Israel over Iran, then I doubt their credibility as a Muslim. That's how bad it is. Because anyone who says that they support Israel in any capacity are an embarrassment. There's no problem in saying that, okay, well, if it was a matter of Syria, the Syrian people or the Iranian regime, then obviously we choose the Syrian people and we condemn it. But if it's a matter of the Israelis getting taught a lesson or something by Iran, and we understand the geopolitics of if Iran falls, then it can create a bigger problem for the Palestinians, it can create a bigger problem for the Yemenis. That's a different argument altogether, and it's a sensical argument. So there's a way of being balanced about this, and I think a lot of people are not balanced when it comes to speaking about this. They speak in a way that's embarrassing to the Ummah, actually, on both sides. There's some people that kind of like sympathize overly with Iran and as if they're the bastions and the heroes of the Ummah and stuff like that. They're not even the heroes of their own people, frankly, right? But then there are other people who look at Iran and they say, well, actually, even if Iran like defeats Israel in a war, there's no praise to be given and there's no concession to be made. And that's another extreme, in my estimation. Some may take fear of the Iranian population because they're 12 Shiites. And that's not the opinion of the overwhelming vast majority of Sunni Muslims. That's not the opinion of almost any of the scholars of the four madhabs, that the 12 is the Ammi, the laity are non-Muslims. There are some stances people take with Iran. Iran's actually a really beautiful country. It's probably one of the most beautiful countries. The culture, the food, the people. They have great honor, actually. They have an honor culture. They're hospitable people. They're respectful people. I've met many Iranians in my life and stuff, and I've always had a good experience speaking to them and being with them. There's racism in Iran to Arabs in particular. That's very well known. But there's also racism in the reverse. There's a lot of Arab racism towards Iran. There's a lot of non-Iranian or Persian racism towards Iranian people. I think there's a balance to be had, and you can't discount or negate Iran. It's too big and strong, and it's too important a Muslim country in too important a geopolitical location. You have to just be nuanced in the way that you discuss the issue. And I think a lot of people have lost that with Iran.
Yeah, I do get a lot of pushback from my position from my followers, that are very anti-Shia, but it's silly to have this view, what is the greater evil? And then obviously we're seeing a lot of Israeli propaganda coming out about trying to rescue the Iranian people and free Muslim women from dressing modestly. All these videos that are coming out now from years ago or from different countries that Muslim women are now being oppressed in Iran and they need to be saved. We've seen what they're doing in Venezuela. We've seen what's going to be happening in Argentina with the forest fires. So if Iran can stop any more wars, then I'm all for that.
The irony is, I think if it was a non-Muslim country, even if that non-Muslim country has had a negative colonial past with the Muslim world, I think it would not have that much controversy. Actually, we don't need to do this as a hypothetical because Spain is a country that's had a very negative colonial past with the Muslim world, as well as the non-Muslim world. The colonialism of the Latin America is one of the worst events in human history in terms of death toll, right? Spain is kind of pro-Palestine and is being praised by Muslim people. If you're going to invoke a historical argument, okay, oh, Iran is so bad because it's history of the Safavids, okay, and all that. Okay, then what have you said about Spain? I mean, Spain is a country that's had a colonial past. It's gone into Morocco. The Spanish Inquisition was one of the worst events in 1492 in history, actually, against Muslims. But yet you have no problem praising Spain, a mildly pro-Palestine stance. But then you invoke a historical argumentation when it comes to Iran. That doesn't make sense to me. Someone could argue and say, well, Spain hasn't been involved in any recent wars against Muslims, whereas Iran has. Okay, well, I make the same argument. If the United Kingdom, who has just been in Iraq and Afghanistan decided to take a pro-Palestine stance, I personally believe that it would be praised among the Muslim population. Okay, even though they killed 1 million people. Historians call it the narcissism of small difference. Okay, if you compare the 12ers with the Zionists, nobody's going to say we're closer to, except for a freak, for somebody who's inept or ridiculous or who's been indoctrinated themselves. No one's going to say we're closer to the Zionists than we are to the Iranian 12ers. Yeah, if the UK took a pro-Palestine stance, okay, Muslims would celebrate it. They would acknowledge it. They would probably praise it, and they would give concession to the United Kingdom for that reason. And once again, people are not making a distinction between the Iranian populace and the Iranian government. And these distinctions all need to be made. For all of the apostasy that's happening in Iran, there's still a pro-Palestine sentiment. If you ask even the apostates in Iran, what do you think of Israel? They'll have a negative view on Israel, you know? So I think all of that needs to be thought about.